the camera thinking this face is more a face than my face. Much better. Hi. Today, I'm going to be continuing a series I started a long time ago, a Dungeons & Dragons character design series from my Dungeons & Dragons team. I've already done 2, if you missed them, here's my sketchbook. We have my character, Emyr Thornwhistle, the halfling rogue arcane trickster. Osiren, number 2, the half-elf dark warlock with a mysterious past and maybe just mysterious in general. Very cool character. And today, we're going to be tackling my 3rd in the series, Emyr the Aasimar, an Angelborn. Don't worry if you don't know who the Aasimar are or what that race is, I'm going to explain that a little bit. I'm also going to do a quick tutorial on how I transfer images perfectly from one sketchbook into another place, or at least how I do it some of the time. So, let's go on an art adventure. I would totally quest in a dungeon for coffee. Step 1. Tracing paper. Why is it better than just putting graphite on the back of a piece of paper and then tracing over it? Well, sometimes the graphite won't transfer perfectly well, or it smudges, or you don't want to ruin the backside of your page. This one is from Japan. It's also carbon paper, but there is tracing paper included with it, all for the mighty price of about $1 US for a whole bunch of them. So what a deal. But if you don't have any handy, I've often used this parchment paper. Let's get the image down. Step 2, transfer paper. You can use carbon paper like I had here, or any sort of transfer paper. This one cost me a few dollars from Blix. This one cost me, like I said, $1 from Japan. So how does it work? You just put it on top of where you want your sketch to go, then you place your traced image on top of that, and then I recommend using a different colored pen to trace over your final image. I also use washi tape to place everything down and lock it into place. And so that's how I'm moving the image here, and then I'll go over it with a kneaded eraser as my last step to just lighten up the sketch a little bit, and then it's ready for a thin inking line. I'm pretty confident usually that I'll come back and re-ink it again, so I don't worry too much about getting the lines interesting or dynamic in any way. I just want a thin, uniform black ink line to then begin working with. Sometimes I just leave it in pencil as well. It's up to you and what sort of method you prefer working with. Step 3. Remove all of the washi tape, remove the tracing paper, remove the carbon paper, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you should have a perfectly copied image exactly where you wanted it to go. There might be a little bit of extra carbon and graphite or whatever it is that it's made of. I guess carbon, since it's called carbon paper, that is scattered around, and I just use a kneaded eraser to tidy things up, and then I can either go straight into painting, drawing with markers, or doing line work. The choice is yours. I also use some thin masking tape, which I picked up in Japan, but you can get it online. It's from Deleta, and you can get it in different sizes and different colors. But this is the 0.5 centimeter or 0.5 millimeter. And I really like giving a little thin border to even a small sketchbook like this. It creates a cool sort of effect a lot of the time. Once I am ready to move on, I'm then taking out my watercolors. I'm using 3 sets for this piece. My Holbein paints, which is the palette that I'm pretty confident in using now. It's the one that I use the most anyway. I'm also using my Daniel Smith Primatech paints, which are made from crushed minerals and gemstones, and they can glitter and granulate and do all sorts of cool effects. For example, the Hematite Genuine is used in the background to give a kind of smoky, gritty, granulating texture to the background. And I'm also using my Finetech Golds right at the end of this piece. And so that's my process for creating this sketch or this piece or this painting. And now I want to talk about what the Aasimar are. In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Aasimar are described as humans with a significant or celestial or other good outsider blood within their ancestry. While they're not always benevolent, Aasimar are more inclined to being good and acts of kindness rather than being evil, although it is possible to be an evil Aasimar. And they're closely associated with angels or celestials. An Aasimar heritage can even lie dormant for many generations and then suddenly appear in a child of 2 people who actually appear to be normal humans. But once an Aasimar is born, it's described as being half human and half celestial. So what do Aasimar actually look like? Well, for the most part, they look quite human, but there can be some traits that are quite unusual and distinctly not human. They can have hair that shines like metal, they can have jewel-toned eyes, they can even have feather in their hair, lustrous skin colors that are greys or blues or green tones. They can even have glowing golden halos. There are some different categories or types of Aasimar, and the Aasimar in our group, Emyr, played by my friend Nicholas, so thank you Nicholas for letting me draw Emyr, he's a Protector Aasimar, and Protector Aasimars are charged with the powers to guard the weak, to strike at evil wherever it arises, and to stand vigilant against darkness. From a young age, a Protector Aasimar receives advice and directives directly to stand against evil, often with a direct conduit to an angel or some sort of celestial. And that is also the case for Emyr, who is guided by his patron Anuk. In our world, long ago there was an ancient war between elves and dwarves, and the elves became victorious, wiping out or decimating the dwarven population, and cutting off the underground or Underdark from the Elven Empire. As aristocrats, they rely on magic though, and their magic has become dulled over time, and they send delve teams down underground to try to locate magical items or technologies used by the dwarves to be able to maintain their elvish powers. We're part of Delve Team 378, and Emyr is part of that group. When we first met Emyr, he was hooded and wore bandages or scarves over his face, and so we saw very little of him, and we just all assumed that he was a human. It wasn't until far into our adventure, when we were encountering a dragon, that Emyr finally revealed his true form, allowing his ethereal wings of the Aasimar to burst forth and to be able to use his special Aasimar abilities to be able to help us to fight that dragon. Even though we were defeated by the dragon at that time, he helped save our lives, and we did manage to escape. So how did an Aasimar who would have been feared and loathed by the elves actually happen to get into Delve Team 378? Well, Emyr grew up in a nomadic group of people far out of the Empire, and those groups of people would have either normally been persecuted by the Empire if they're found, or killed outright. So they're people that would live off the land and stay as far away from elves as possible. When he was 16 years old, he met a tabaxi, which is a cat-like race, called Ember. Some years later, Ember and Emyr were coming back from a hunt, and the group's leaders of the nomadic tribe confronted them, and it led to a confrontation where Emyr struck out and attacked the leaders. But Ember was shocked by this and fought back against Emyr and actually reached out with her claws in disgust and sliced across his face, scarring him for life. She then left the camp, and Emyr later regretted his actions and has been since trying to find Ember, which has led him to Delve Team 378. He's also guided by his celestial patron Anuk and has been encouraged to seek out evil and destroy it. Although our team was shocked by the fact and revelation that Emyr is an Aasimar, and my character Yuri Thornwhistle had never even seen or heard of one before, we still accepted him into our Delve team, partly because we're all misfits, or many of us just outright distrust or even hate the Empire and what it's done. So Emyr has become a central figure of our team, often protecting us during our dire battles and rushing in headlong to attack, sometimes causing the battles in the first place, but we've all had our moments for that sort of thing. Over time, Yuri and Emyr have formed a somewhat uneasy alliance or cautious friendship, and bit by bit, Yuri's even half-dressed Emyr. He's helped Emyr to obtain or trade for a short sword that he carries and fights with, massively powerful gauntlets of strength that Yuri stole from the dragon's den or lair. Yuri guided the party to a marketplace on the Fire Plane where Emyr picked up his obsidian breastplate and armor, which has a fire protection. And also in a recent encounter, Yuri helped Emyr to find his angel-like amulet. That story is still fresh in my mind, and I love that part of the campaign. We had reached a little island and traveled towards a volcano or mountain where it had been told that giants were found. After sneaking through some tunnels, we eventually found a place where a large pool of lava was encapsulated in a magical protection of ice and frost, keeping the lava and the volcano at bay.
Suspecting that this was a source of power, Yuri helped to convince Emyr to destroy that protective shell and to allow the lava to free and perhaps increase our chances of fighting these frost giants. Our group decided to use blasting power to destroy the protective icy shell, and therefore we all ran down the corridor except for Emyr, who then set the charge and allowed the explosive to detonate. Through some acrobatic dodging and some very skillful maneuvering, he was just able to escape the blast and the subsequent lava flow. But we also realized that perhaps this was a mistake because the lava was flowing and gushing in a torrent, more like a volcano erupting rather than a slow-flowing lava river. Rushing forward, we encountered the frost giants and began a battle as the whole mountain began to fall down apart around us, throwing down rocks and smashing all over the place. Fortunately, our group was able to just in time be able to destroy or banish some of the frost giants away from us, and Yuri even had a chance to dive into a little treasure pile where he found a little ring that he's kept secret from the group, but also an amulet of an angel. Immediately upon touching that amulet, Yuri began to take damage and was harmed by it, but he sensed that it was powerful and useful for someone, even though it was about to kill him. In the nick of time, as boulders and the mountain were crashing down all around Yuri, he was able to dash out of the cavern and throw the amulet towards Emyr just before he would take lethal damage and die. Fortunately for us, the amulet was quite strong and a direct link to the powers of a nuke, strongly increasing Emyr's abilities. And Emyr later went on to outright just immediately banish a creature from existence right in front of us in a later battle. The whole incident has left Yuri quite concerned too, thinking that he must be evil or damaged in some way because the amulet was harming him so much, and Emyr seems completely untouched by it and is totally okay to wear it even. So I hope you've enjoyed this little art adventure and my process of moving the sketch from my sketchbook to a place where I want to do my final piece, my discussion of the Aasimar and the character Emyr. Thank you again to Nicholas for letting me draw his character. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed and clicked like or left a comment, to do those things. It really helps out my channel so much, and I'll see you guys soon for another art adventure. And of course, as always, create more and consume less. Take care, everyone.